Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Buddy Study Group for Worksite Solutions. And today we're going to talk about what is group long-term care anyway. We're going to get very introspective. I think this comes from, well, really a number of questions that we get each and every day about our work in group long-term care. You know, if you've been around long enough, we started individual, got into group, really put in the work and cut our teeth in this market. And oftentimes it does serve you to kind of take a step back and say, how do we define group long-term care? This is an industry in general that has a lot of acronyms, a lot of naming convention issues. And I think the best way to solve that is to develop and communicate a clear definition as to where anything that may come up in this realm sits within the definition. So we want to be clear on that. We don't necessarily require that anybody follow our naming conventions, but we want people to know how we're actually classifying any given product we could run into or solution as to how it fits into group long-term care and what it is.
Jason, can
Yes.
I provide a true confession as a little bit of backstory on this session?
I think true confessions are always good content.
So this was partly because I sent out an email to many of you, many of you, that the other day that generated a lot of interest, and I got a lot of questions. So I was firing questions over to Mark. Should I answer it this way? Is this really how this works? So you can thank me for not being totally in the loop on products. So I'm here as a student.
I would say you're in the loop on product. It's just it is so easy to get tangled into nomenclature in
Yes,
this industry that sometimes you have a conversation with someone and you wonder, am I saying the same thing?
right.
Is what I'm saying in my head actually the answer I want to communicate to this person? Will they take my answer as how I intend it? And that's the important part about kind of getting this defined, getting it right.
Yeah.
And we will also talk about the subject of the email that you sent out because we had a huge update to our group quick quote, and we have a number of different plan designs available there from across this kind of portfolio of options, and we'll kind of use that to round out the discussion. So, um, Mark, what's group long-term care? What is it anyway?
What
There's,
is it anyway? Well, there's two levels, and I'm a first principles guy, so I apologize for getting in the weeds. You guys know me. I'm a little analytical or a lot. I'm an actuary, all that kind of stuff. But what I want to kind of take a step back with and say there's the group aspect of it, and there's the long-term care aspect of it. So I have to take those in two separate buckets because when we get questions, reading between the lines, sometimes we're not on the same page with clients or brokers about that conversation. So let me start with the group aspect. We have products that are filed as individual, and we have products that are filed as group, which means that the employer is signing the application and the employee or association member is getting a certificate. Okay. So when you say true group, and we're talking like filings and actuarial lingo, is it filed as an individual product or is it filed as a group product? So that's the first kind of distinction. Now, within the group world, we offer these long-term care products that are fully portable, which means that when someone leaves the group, they own the same contract as an individual. So, from a practical perspective, whether you buy it through a group or whether you buy it as an individual, you get the same claim payment. You get the same guarantees, you get the same rates, attached to it, even when you leave the group. So, when I'm offering it to suggesting for a broker or a client, it's important to say, like, yes, this is a true group product, but it gives you the same privileges as if you're an individual. Make sure you port it when you leave the group. That's the big asterisk of how to make sure people utilize their policy. The contract language itself, when you look at it, happens to be almost identical. And that's what matters when it comes to paying out claims, is what does the contract say? And those are identical. So that's the first part. Groups can also be worksite groups, which is the most common, and association groups. But they use the same worksite products, at least today. when we talk about offering it in a group setting. That can change, but that's kind of the current environment. So if you're working with the standard is a good example. If you get their employer group proposal, it's the same as if you get an association proposal. They have to do an additional filing with the state for an association, but that's on the carrier's side. Am I good so far? Does that all make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Let me go into the long-term care part of this group. What is group long-term care? When someone asks me, do you have true group long-term care? What they may be asking is, do you have traditional standalone long-term care? But as you all know, and as the market's shown us, we call long-term care, whether it's a hybrid or we call it life-based long-term care or asset-based long-term care, it's a euphemism for you're buying this because you want the long-term care benefit. The life insurance is just the vehicle with which we're delivering that long-term care benefit. So again, that's where you get into, well, how do regulators think about it? How do carriers think about it? How do clients think about it? I'm just expressing how I'm thinking about it because again, the contract language is the same, whether it's a long-term care rider or whether it's a standalone long-term care contract. And that's how the long-term care benefits are paid out. And therefore, first principles, I feel very confident that it's filed as long-term care. I'm allowed to call it long-term care. And, I do want to help the client understand why it's built on a life insurance policy. That's the education part. But I don't limit that, our language to that. And I won't get into chronic care and all these other versions of it. Let's talk about just, filed with the Department of Insurance, 7702B will say, that's the federal definition of long-term care. To me, those are all long-term care solutions. So you put those two things together, that leads to a lot of confusion, a lot of combinations of things, out there. What we're seeing in the market, and I always think about what's practical for us to offer and sell today to clients. We get a census for a group, and let's say it has, 25 people on it. And we're looking at what's available in the market for that client that meets their needs for long-term care. A lot of times we're going to look at a solution that's geared for a group. Okay? So 4 groups is kind of what we're looking for. Whether it's filed as a group product or an individual product, maybe those solutions both work. Because we have a lot of individual products that are designed to be what we call multi-life. I've taken an individually filed product, but I put it in a process with underwriting that allows me to offer it for a group. So when we look at the market, we're going to look at both. We're going to look at the true group products, the individually filed for multi-life products, the traditional long-term care, and the life-based long-term care. That's a lot of things to look at, right? That's a lot of things to juggle in your mind. So in our world, what we're trying to do for you guys and for the buddy community is to say, like, if you get an opportunity and you're looking for a solution, we want to give you all those solutions and make it easy for you to prioritize those so you can find the right fit for that group. But we're going to include all of those in that bucket because they're all eligible to be a potential solution that's going to fit them well. So I hope that wasn't too complicated, but that's really what our thought process is. And when you go through the tools that Jason's going to show you, it's really select your state, let us help recommend products for you, but we want you to know what's out there, even if it's not on our recommended list, because you might know something we don't know, and we don't want you to feel like you haven't, looked in every corner to find something that could fit.
Well, Mark, if you feel like sharing the group quick quote, I just know there's going to be a lot of Vanna White. So if you would like to be Vanna White to your past
Sure. Well, let me start actually one step back, which is if you go to the product section in the portal, you'll see the first thing that comes up is a carrier list. And this carrier list is actually a portfolio of all the products that we tend to offer that are for groups. Not always group filed. This says true group, but there's also a section below it that says individual for multi-life. And again, that's just to help you know kind of what bucket they fall into, but these are all 4 groups. When we think about 4 groups, right, the questions that come up are what states is it in, available in? What's the minimum group size that it allows us to do? What's the minimum participation? And then what's the underwriting? So these 4 columns here are kind of the key columns to figure out, is this particular carrier a good fit for my long-term care client? That's a group, 4 groups. There's 9 carriers on the true group list now. There are more out there in the market and there are more coming to market, so expect this list to continue to expand. We have 6 carriers listed in this bucket. Some are actually not available yet. We'll say NA, if they're not available yet, but we expect them to come on market. Actually, we know CareScout, for example, just launched this month, so we'll have to update this, that they're now available in the market. These are also available for groups. They have a little bit of different spin. You'll see the most the difference that jumps off the page to me the most is actually a lot of them are simplified issue, not guaranteed issue. There's one option that may be guaranteed issue, but the rest are not. Whereas on the True Group side, all of them have a guaranteed issue, kind of flagship product. And that's going to be why we choose it first the most for groups, is because guaranteed issue is what most of our groups are looking for. They don't want people to be turned down for coverage. But there are reasons why those products for multi-life are becoming more important because they fill gaps in our group portfolio. A lot of these you'll see also product types as LTCi versus a life insurance chassis. If they're true standalone LTCi, they have some advantages like tax deductibility, partnership protection, and the like. And that's another gap they're filling in the market for us. And sometimes clients just want to replace their Unum standalone plan with another standalone plan, and we want to be able to deliver what they want, what they're looking for. So that's why we've added these more recently, and you're starting to see these pop up. Almost all of them, though, are relatively new to the market and therefore are going through the learning curve of how to operate with groups and developing their enrollment experience, and we're working with them to help them do that as we find opportunities. Jason, as we look at this list, anything else that I should cover before I jump to the tools?
Well, I just put it out in writing because it can be really hard to get a grip on when it's just spoken in this way. And obviously, we're showing it in the list. But yeah, just to reiterate, all of these are solutions that can be used for groups for the purpose of getting coverage for groups. Now, where we separate further from there is based on filing. Bucket 1, filed as group products. Bucket 2, filed as individual products at their core. But they are all solutions for groups. Something about the product, process, whatever it may be, makes it a solution for groups. And then within each bucket, do we have standalone traditional long-term care or life long-term care hybrids? That's the clearest way I could explain the definitions of what you are looking at there. And of course, you can go even further, but we want to make sure that this is known first and foremost in how we describe things. That's first and foremost most important to know.
Jason, well said. And the thing that gives me peace of mind that we're expressing this correctly is this product to be something that they can own individually that's going to pay out their claims like long-term care should be paid out, from the contract definition. And we vetted all of these to say the answer is yes. We would feel very confident and comfortable presenting this to a client saying you're going to get a good long-term care benefit out of this particular plan.
I guess the one question I have is there clarity forming, Gretchen, in that you were the sort of catalyst for this in a moment of relative, I guess, uncertainty?
Yes, but keep going.
Well, that's a good point. We can use a case study. So let's say Gretchen got a question from her email that said, "Hey Gretchen, is the standard a True Group long-term care product?" She could go to this carrier list and say, "Well, it's True Group," and look at this list. It's not a standalone, but it's a long-term care product. It's a hybrid product. That's what we want you to feel comfortable doing too.
Mhm.
Just going here and being able to look it up.
And Chris has a great natural sort of next question to this discussion. And the question is, when are the individual for multi-life solutions used? And it's a great question. And I think it's a great kind of study of this type of product.
The answer. Oh, sorry, Jason. I didn't mean to step
Well,
in.
I would say it'll also give you insight into how we view these products, not just on a product basis, but it's like half product, half process, to a degree. But yeah, Mark, I would say go for it and I'll fill in.
Okay. So on the true group side, one of the things you'll notice that jumps out to you is if you look at all the products available today, the last one actually is not available yet, so it's not on the market yet, but all the ones available today, none of them say LTCi. None of them are standalone LTCi. So one of the main reasons we started adding the individual for multi-life is we needed more standalone LTCi solutions that were worksite compatible. And the carriers have started marketing it as worksite compatible, which means they're committed to supporting what we need from the enrollment experience and the underwriting experience. So we're starting to see simplified issue, traditional long-term care, which we haven't seen in the market in a long time. That's why we're adding them. Probably the biggest two, which are the top two on the list, are going to be National Guardian Life, which came out with their Honest LTC product back in March and rolled it out alongside a worksite compatible version. They have a
One
minimum.
caveat there, Mark, because I know they would want me to mention
Yep.
this. The guaranteed issue is something that may not be available to you immediately. It's on very, very limited basis as of
It's
right now.
yeah, and the best way to get to convince them to offer it to you is pay for everybody. If everybody gets paid an employer-funded plan, that's the secret key code. So that's what's going to have them take a look at it at the very least.
Right.
But it is 25 minimum, so it's not designed for small groups necessarily, like super small groups, I would say. But it is traditional LTCi, so you will have some clients that are Unum clients, for example, that are like, I can't fund my Unum plan anymore. I have 25 more people. Can I get a standalone policy? And guess what? The answer may be yes. You got to bring it to NGL because they're piloting this program, to Jason's point, but you can offer that. Buddy's one of kind of the enrollment partners that they're working with to roll this out because we have the ability to do our own enrollment platform and have our own enrollment experience. So just like we support you on the group side as your enrollment partner, NGL is working with us because we can support you with their product for multi-life with the same quality of enrollment experience. And they may not, work with everybody if they don't have the ability to support it with an enrollment process. So that's one big, I'll say, new carrier that's on the market that we're excited about. But again, we have to compare the pricing to hybrids. We have to look at, is it the right fit? Sometimes the traditional carrier clients want to go to the hybrid side because of rate increases or because, of whatever their experience has been. You do have to kind of compare them side by side. You can't just assume, that you should use a particular type of product. Banker's Life is another product, got its own challenges as it's a career product, right? It only is available through career agents. Okay, Buddy has access to that product, so you can work with it. The one thing we like about Bankers is that they have a product in all 50 states. How hard is it to find a really solid long-term care product in New York, for example? It can be pretty challenging. If you have a group in New York, maybe even more challenging. So we've started to use Bankers Life to offer to our small group clients in New York, our retirees even, retiree groups in New York, and we've gotten some good feedback. They like what they're seeing. They like the pricing. The experience we're building is an enrollment experience just like we would for a group enrollment using the Bankers Life product. Standalone long-term care, but a 1-year benefit, almost like a short-term care product, and simplified underwriting, very high approval rates. We're seeing 90% or higher underwriting approvals from actual experience over the last 3 years working with them. So we really like their process. Sometimes we get approvals in a few hours. They have a digital experience in terms of their underwriting.
And one of the things I want to add, Mark, though you may be getting there, is we also have a lot of people in our network who have relationships with associations or non-traditional groups, meaning we don't have like a traditional employer-employee relationship with this group, right? And those people still want access to long-term care. True group carriers really run the gamut as far as their temperature on being able to accept associations. Some will have a very strict definition of what associations they will consider. Some outright will not consider associations. or associations of certain types. Others will completely maybe strip away the guaranteed issue underwriting, and their simplified issue underwriting, may not be the most ideal. There's lots of different outcomes, but they want to see something that is very specific and favorable. And I would say most DTQs come from associations rather than employers on those products. DTQ is declined to quote, we won't consider, essentially.
Good point.
So these
Yeah.
individual products, since they can be sold to individuals, tend to fit into those non-traditional sort of arrangements better than, in some cases, true group plans.
Yeah. When we started to see that the true group plans were available for associations, you'll see a few check marks here for associations, that opened up another market. It's a challenging market because you have to get the members to engage and participate. So you do need to have a great, marketing presence, sales team, enrollment platform. So we've put a lot of that together for these true group products. You'll see a lot of these, to Jason's point, have check marks because some of the group carriers won't accept some of our associations for whatever reasons. Some of them have to be filed and they can't get the filings approved in certain states. Well, guess what? These products you can use for associations, so it fills a gap. So I know some of you on the call even have brought some associations. We said, hey, you may want to take a look at bankers because we can do that without state approvals as an individual product in all 50 states. We just have to market it and enroll it like a group, make sure it has the right conditions to get participation for your sake. The carrier is fine with it, just doing it one at a time because it's an individual product. So there's some newer carriers on this list as well. I want to mention, some of these we haven't worked with closely that yet. We've gotten quotes from them. We like the potential. We're bringing them in because when it comes to a non-traditional group, Reframe, which is a company called Continental General, will look at a lot more associations. So that might be one we look at. Now it's a B plus rated carrier, so it does limit you, depending on your sensitivity with that. But they have low minimums, one, and they do allow you to do non-traditional groups. That's one of their marketing. That's what they marketed to us. Like if you have groups that don't fit other carriers, come to us and we think we have a solution. It is an IUL with long-term care, so it's different in terms of the structure, may or may not be a fit for the client because of that. LifeSecure we've worked with in the past. Right now, they don't have the strongest products, but they're coming out with a Generation 4. So we're kind of keeping them on the list because I think they are going to come out with a new iteration because they actually got acquired by another company and they're looking to kind of reinvigorate their long-term care. So these are just kind of predictions of where we think it's headed. Care Scout, as you know, same kind of situation. From the ashes of Genworth has come a new company, and they have launched a worksite solution. They're putting a lot of investment into it. We're looking at it. We're still trying to figure out where it fits, but we think it has potential. And then Nationwide, we've only talked to about them wanting to do a worksite, so nothing official yet. I was even hesitant to even put them on the list. They might slap my hand. I might have to remove them. But the reality is these are the ones we think are going to come out with individual multi-life solutions. So we want you to be ahead of the curve in knowing that they may be out there. Talk to your Nationwide folks that you're interested, may help you get it to market sooner. One I didn't mention, but we probably might add on the list is John Hancock, because they do have a multi-life, solution, but it's their universal
Protection
life.
IUL.
Yeah, it's not the extension product. It's not like the true long-term care product. It's more of the life-based product. So in my mind, that's still more life insurance solution than a long-term care, but that's kind of like definitely a debatable topic.
If you've done a lot of work with protection UL, like the PUL product or PIUL or any of those other acronyms, Hancock, just the pure life with long-term care rider, it is very, very similar, retrofitted with some worksite guardrails, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and that's
It's
kind of the way to
interesting.
think about these. When it's an individual filed product, it's usually their individual product
Right.
retrofitted for a multi-life situation,
Fits
which
the
may or
billing
may not work.
exactly.
Yeah. So we did an enrollment with John Hancock, I would say a year or two ago. We didn't have great success with it, hence why we haven't really gone back to offering it, just for a number of reasons. These other True Group products we had much better experiences with. Not a knock on them. They were just
No.
launching something as a pilot, and they may get a lot better with it. The product may get better. So we do want to keep them on the list, but it's like one of those things, like what do you include, to keep it manageable?
any one of these options has a chance to be a match made in heaven for a specific group, right? They wouldn't be in the market and they wouldn't be, advertising that presence if there
Mhm.
wasn't that potential. So that's why I think keeping an open mind, really listening to the case details that you have in front of you and using this list to better understand what the fits may be is
Yes.
best practice.
And I can tell you, and I promise you, laboriously over the last 5 years, all I've done is go to the individual carriers that are leading the market, like the One Americas, the Lincolns, and I've asked them, can we find a way to use your product for multi-life? I've tried very hard, and so far I haven't got any traction. That's why they're not there. But it's not for lack of trying.
To
Jason
the
can.
point where carrier reps will be like, "No, Mark, we don't have anything for multi-life yet," before like right after he says hello.
Yeah.
It's the top agenda item each time we discuss.
But that doesn't mean that they're not gonna, because of that push, that feedback, develop something, right? So we definitely want to be, first to know about that and letting you guys be the first to know. So anyway, that's the state of the market today. What I love about this is if you would look at this list 5 years ago, you might have seen two carriers on it. Today,
Trust me.
how many do we have? I think there's like 15. And these carriers actually have multiple products. When it says like T100, GWL, those are two products, three products.
That
Some
didn't
have two or
exist
three.
either.
Right. So it's great to see the growth, and that's kind of what we've been talking about for a long time. It's going to continue. I keep seeing new carriers, and there's a lot that are not even on this list that either have products, have chronic illness riders, not long-term care, these kind of things.
So Chris had another question, Chris Real, that I want to
Mm-hmm.
just speak to. How do you handle someone who also wants to insure the spouse or significant other? They handle them a little differently. So true group carriers, in many cases, will have limits on what the spouse can purchase, guaranteed issue or simplified issue, and that's going to vary group to group based on what offer they come back with. But there generally is something for the spouse. Rules may vary, by uh, the spouse coverage being contingent on an employee or member purchase. So maybe you get 50% of what the employee spouse purchases. All sorts of, different options there. Individual for multi-life plans, again, can vary a little bit, but if you're working with it as true, like individual by individual, there can be a little bit of an advantage there because some of those products are offering, say, spousal discounts, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's actually an advantage to bringing in a spouse to any sort of employee or member that you're talking to.
Yeah. And
Little
Chris, I'm
incentive
glad you
there.
brought that question too, because it leads me to think maybe we should add a column for that on this chart.
Hmm.
So we might add based on your feedback. This is a pretty new list that we just created. So spousal coverage, any other details that you think are helpful at a glance, just shoot them our way and we'll try to add information on here. I would have answered a little differently than Jason. I would have said like, yes, spousal coverage is available for all the carriers. And that's a good thing, right? Because we do want to be proactive about saying not only is it for you, the guaranteed issue or the simplified issue, it's for your spouse too. That's
That's
a very,
true.
very important part of the enrollment process.
I have not seen a product yet that says no spouse offering available, but how they handle the limits to what they will provide to a spouse is generally what differentiates, at least in
Mhm.
True Group.
Any other questions on this page?
Not that I see. Chris Liebem said with the updated IRS ruling, NGL and bankers might be good options. I am not super up on that personally.
So there's a new part of the tax reform, part two, which I think Chris is referring to because I remember we emailed a little bit about this, which had to do with taking distributions out of qualified funds to pay for long-term care. Traditional long-term care would be the category. I think that's what you're referring to, Chris. Which basically to me is not as big of a deal. I don't think it's going to get a lot of traction personally, but that's just my opinion. Mostly because the only thing they're really doing is waiving the under 59 and a half early withdrawal penalty from a qualified account. You still have to pay tax when you take the money out on gains. So they gave kind of a little loophole there. where you can take money out for a long-term care purchase, under 59.5. But again, no one's marketing it yet, and I don't know if it's enough to want to use these products versus the hybrid products. I still think the hybrid products are going to be stronger from a pricing perspective. I think the tax deduction for employer paid is much more valuable. And those are the type of groups we want to do anyway, right? Because employer paid is really what generates the participation on these plans. And to deduct that for traditional long-term care is a big tax advantage where you can't really do that on these group hybrids as of yet. So that's I think a big reason, kind of to Chris's point, but I would position it that way. I can't read the chat, Jason, so I hope I
I
answered.
think other than that, we are
Okay.
good.
All right, let me go and I will let's go over to Product Buddy, I think you said first.
No,
Or
quick
Quick
quote.
Quote. Quick Quote. Okay. So Quick Quote. And this is the new version. Thank you, Jason, for reminding me that we just launched this week. Thanks to the team for the hard work in getting this to market. You may remember this tool previously, and it looks similar, but there are some big enhancements to it. One is that you select the carrier first instead of it being one long list of products. We have so many products now and so many plans that we needed to break it down into further categories. So we decided let's do product first, and then you can pick within those products. So let's try the standard as our starting point. You'll see we have 8 different plan designs that you can choose from to quote it. Probably the most popular one that I quote the most, just because of the wider availability, is the term to 100 with 5% inflation on the monthly benefit. And that will update the tool for that specific plan design. All of the rates, all of the death benefit amounts, all of those things are actually updating in real time here. This is the most effective tool for me to present to brokers and clients this product without going to the carrier for a quote. You can go straight here and get a very good sample rate, and you can get them excited about wanting to pursue this and give you a census. So to me, that's, kind of how I use the tool, Jason. But if you want to look at one of the newer products, like how does the NGL product price, you can do the same thing. Now remember, this is going to be the LTC benefit, not a death benefit you're choosing from it. So we're still kind of working on, kind of how this looks and feels, but you can select different benefit amounts, do the same kind of analysis, price benefit analysis, look at the insurance multiplier. And if you didn't know about this feature, we still have the feature where you can compare products. So if you want to compare the standard term to 100 monthly inflation, you can start to look at how these look side by side. And I don't want to say one's better than the other. It really is, case specific, but this is just kind of the default that was on the list here. So this is a good way to kind of play around with this, start to get an idea of pricing for some of these carriers. I think you're going to stumble upon some opportunities and you're going to be like, wait a second, I have this client or this case. I should bring this product to them. I haven't thought about, NGL or bankers or my New York client. Let's see how it looks. Let's see if they like it. You can actually just, again, quote that product, get a sample of what it looks like, and then show it to them and say, hey, if we offered this to all your employees, would you be interested in us bringing this in? And I think you're going to get positive responses like we are getting. Jason, I don't have a script here, so let me know if you want me to go in a particular direction.
There never was a script. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you're seeing an update to Quick Quote right now. Chris, you asked about a one-page summary for the Aflac product. That's where we'll go next because the answer is yes, we do, as well as having their pricing in the Quick Quote tool. But over the next, I would say, couple of months here, you are going to see some pretty massive changes to Quick Quote and Product Buddy as a whole. And I think what you're going to notice, first of all, is they will end up sort of melded together as one singular experience. So, what would it be like if we could show dynamic pricing in the Product Buddy tool? And what would it be like if Quick Quote could filter out, options by state, right? And group size, things of that nature. So, we're going to make that a little bit more of a unified, dynamic experience, make the comparisons a little bit more apparent. There's going to be some changes to how the calculator looks and feels and what information it displays. There is a lot coming. that we feel we have the potential to do that will add a lot of value. So stay tuned, but we are currently focused on getting these current versions to a place where we are happy and then flinging right over to building the new version of this. Um, so I think you will see one other carrier. Mark, if you want to switch to product, buddy, you'll see one new carrier in there right now. You'll see another new carrier coming across shortly, but we do have Aflac's term to 120 in product buddy now with working one pagers. And right now, what you're going to see is really just one plan design for this product. Okay. It will vary based on your size segment that you're looking at in Product Buddy, but you're really going to see one of several plan designs that are actually available for Aflac. And that's just kind of the outfront. Here's what we think about like the best way to design this plan. And that would be with extension of benefits and inflation protection with no restoration. Okay. With the new version of Product Buddy, we're going to experiment with ways that you can dynamically sort of design your own one pager, what you would like to show. Are there different plan designs that you would like to represent on the one pager? So there's a lot coming. It's kind of hard to put it all into words. I guess next thing I can say is that Chubb's new product, CGL, Chubb Guaranteed Life, is the next carrier that you will end up seeing as part of the Product Buddy roster. And you'll see Aflac and CGL in the census quote very, very soon.
I was talking to Gretchen before this. I didn't mention this to you, Jason, but in the spirit of unscripted here, um, we do want to have sessions for all these carriers on the worksite study group. So it's likely you're going to see a number of product carrier sessions, Aflac, CGL, NGL, bankers. We'll probably do sessions on all these products because we haven't done some of them in this forum because they are new to market. But that's probably a good way to learn about the ones that you're most interested in. Just show up to those sessions and we'll go in deep dive into each of them.
Yep, I've got some calendar links out to people. I'd say on the group side, they're a little bit harder to nail down than the individual side, but they always show up. They will book some times and we'll make you aware well in advance so you don't miss those sessions because we do think they are important. And of course, you'll always have the recording. So Chris asked Mark, is group new business still more likely into the fall, or is it easier to introduce it with employers year round in the current market? So I guess the simplest way to answer that is we prefer long-term care to be an off-cycle enrollment. So this is a busy time for group long-term care, just as all employer benefits are, because we're kind of gearing up toward that annual enrollment for many groups. Long-term care does require, I think, a bit of runway, a lot of education, a lot of communication. So we prefer that it's not competing with all of the other benefit decisions an employee has to make. So we see this as a busy time because it's kind of that last window
Well,
for off-cycle enrollments. But Mark, yeah, feel free to add more
yeah,
flavor there.
I interpreted Chris' question a little differently, actually,
Oh,
and it's only because I separated into two buckets. So not that your answer was incorrect or anything, but there's the quoting and selling to the group aspect, and there's the enrollment aspect. This is an extremely busy time. I can't tell you, I'm getting a lot of inquiries because everyone's looking at their benefits right now. The benefit brokers are coming to us to quote long-term care. That doesn't mean we have to enroll it during open enrollment, though, to
right.
Jason's point. But you will get a lot of quote requests this time of year. And that's the best way to kind of decide how do you follow up with them. Some of those quote requests do lead us to a solution that they're going to enroll in the first quarter of next year.
Right.
So take advantage of that right now. Go to your clients that have, kind of either your benefit broker partners or the clients and say, hey, have you looked at long-term care? Because I know you're planning for your benefit season. You do want to at least get in that conversation now.
Agreed. This is a good time to have your communications be well received. Hey, I was just thinking about like all this stuff for the last few weeks, actually. It's time to start on all this. So,
Yeah.
slot right into it.
Yeah. And again, it's in the spirit of meeting your client where they're at, right? If your client's thinking about this and that's the best time to talk to them about this, make sure you're a part of that conversation. And what better time than now? I would not wait. In fact, if you wait a little bit too long, you may miss the window when they say, hey, we've decided on benefits this year, come back to me next year.
Yeah.
You might hear that. Now, I will mention one other thing, and just this is from a personal experience I had this week as well. If you're working with a larger company, have that conversation earlier. They make their budgetary decisions on employer funding earlier in the year. If you ask them now, they'll say, like, sorry, wait until next year. I've already made my budget decisions for this year on my benefits.
Right.
So if you want employer funding, again, there's going to be an opportunity for you to meet with certain clients in the first half of the year too, for again meeting them where they're at on their on their annual cycle. So
So Chris Lee met a question. Since Texas can be kind of iffy on associations, what are some good states?
okay, that's a fair question. Again, I would go back to the product lists. Let me shrink it down again. So again, I would start with carrier first because which carriers are good for associations? You see, we have a few ones checked here. Chubb has offered us associations in the past. They're very selective about them, so I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the lead carrier. The standard, as Chris mentioned, has their product in all states, but not for associations yet in Texas. They're waiting for approval on that. So that's why I know Chris brought up that point in question. Right now, we're talking to Aflac, again, new carrier on our list, about associations, and it seems like they're open to that conversation. So, Chris, Aflac, and I know we've talked about that one. Transamerica has given us offers before. We don't have them on the list because, again, they're very selective. And so we don't want to give carriers business that they're not interested in. But that is something that is a possibility. Other than that, I would go to this individual multi-life solution. Bankers is one you don't have to get approval from anybody on. You can use their product and offer it to associations today in all 50 states. So that would be my first go-to, Chris, is Bankers. Reframe, they've designed their product for non-employer groups, for association groups. I would explore that if the client's okay with an IUL LTC product. And then CareScout, we're talking to them. Again, it's brand new as of this month. So right now, I don't know if they're going to accept it on their worksite product, but they've indicated a willingness to explore that, hence why it's checked off. This is subject to change. Again, we're just kind of putting some gauges to give you directional advice here, but those are the ones that are on the list right now.
100%.
Sorry, I can't see your question, so if you followed up.
I do business in Colorado and Michigan. Are they good for associations?
Yes.
I would agree.
As a broad comment, yes. The only ones that are challenging, and really the standard has been the one that's been most supportive. If you have a group that's at least 2,000 members in one particular state, that's really the kind of the minimum requirement. The only ones that don't work are California and Texas right now. Okay. One thing I wanted to mention on this before we jumped off, Jason, sorry, I was remembering why I brought this up, is if you want a standalone version of the calculator, which I use quite often to share with brokers and even with employers, go to the marketing section of the portal and search for demo. These are what we call our demo pages. So it takes that calculator, but it actually will show it just that product. So your client's not looking at all of the products or getting confused by all the different options there. So if you want the standard and you want the term to 100 product, click on that, open the link, and you're going to get a page. Let's see if I can get back down. You'll see the URL here. You can copy and paste this into an email, and anybody can look at this page to get the calculator. So I use these a lot because, again, the clients are going to log into the portal to see it. You don't have to be on the screen share to show it to them. You can actually send this to them. Again, remember, this is a sample. There's a disclaimer here. It's just illustrative rates, but we are very confident that this is going to be very close to what to expect pricing wise. It's close enough where they can make a decision, then you can get them an actual quote from the carrier.
And we purposely strip out a lot of the content in here because if you're talking to a client in a state where, for example, one of the FAQs may not actually be answered the same way, or they may not get the same exact enrollment terms, things of that nature, We don't want to put you or anyone else on the hook for misrepresenting anything that turns out a different way. So if you notice that things are generally stripped down compared to what you'd see on an actual enrollment, that is the reason. But you can use this page kind of like a cue card to show some of the items that we bring to the enrollment experience itself.
Yeah, I use it to
FAQs,
explain the product.
webinars.
I use it to explain the product too.
Yeah.
I'll walk them through how the benefits pay out. And we do this on the webinar too, Jason, right? Which
Hmm.
is start off in the beginning, show them how the benefits pay out each month, what the total is, and then show them the inflation. So that's my script, is just walking them through that logic. And these calculators do a really quick job of helping them understand the mechanics of the payout of the products.
Yeah. And I would say, as you get familiar with all of our tools and um, just how they are used, you will develop your own way of walking through the benefits. We try to just give you some of the principles, some of the things that we find very helpful. Like even Mark and I, we work a little bit differently. Mark is a bit more calculator focused. I still use the calculator as part of mine, but I actually like to be a little more ask and determine where to go from there. But I start with the product buddy one pager myself because I may run into a scenario where I'm dealing with someone where I have to really start from scratch on long-term care, or they're not aware of life long-term care hybrids. So I tend to walk through the product guarantees section. For me, is so nice because those are the things that I think are going to bring like that sigh of relief. Like, whew, okay, we have guaranteed issue coverage available. That's awesome. I don't have to worry about underwriting, level premiums. That's awesome. I don't have to worry about that experience on the employee side or an employer paid side. Um, you know, um, Portability is a gigantic one. Okay, we do have that portability. It'll bring up questions as to how to, you know, answer that. Who is actually eligible out of my employees? I know for many HR folks, they'll think of the one person that's left out when you give eligibility rules. So that kind of helps head some of those things off. And then I go into the calculator. A lot of these rates here are static, of course. They're designed to be sample in nature. I need to kind of be able to show them how that comes to life with different scenarios. So that's where I'll use this first and transition over, but you'll develop your own way of doing things that fits how you naturally work and communicate.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, I know your client, right? That's what it comes down to.
Right.
I know our topic today, what is group long-term care insurance? Did we answer that, Jason? Do you think?
We did. Yeah, I was thinking about closing up shop in the first 10 minutes of the study group because we kind of laid it out very, very sternly, very early. But just remember, think about filing is how we really make that bucket one, bucket two distinction. But on that list, everything on that list is a solution for groups in one way or another. That is the important piece to know. Any other further definitions are going to have principles as well, but it's going to be based on one item or another.
I just realized we have three Chris's on the line, but one of the Chris's had asked another question. These products are like perm term products. Is that part of the hook in talking to the employee? So that's a great topic. I'll kind of relate it to the session topic, which is right now the group market is the only one that has perm term,
Yeah,
which I think is fantastic. I keep
it's
talking to
cool.
the individual carriers. Why aren't you copying this for the individual market? You know, it's such a great concept. And the answer is yes. I think that's why it's become popular. You'll see all of our top eight almost, I think with the exception of maybe one, the perm term is their flagship product now. They do the most sales with that. And the idea there is, right, you have a term chassis that doesn't expire to deliver the long-term care benefits. Um, and with employees, it does play very well. With employers, it does, with one exception, I would say, Chris, which is sometimes they get confused that you're looking to replace their other, group term
Group term
life.
life.
And that is not what we're doing here. We tell them don't get rid of your your group term. This is long-term care still. And so you just have to anticipate that that question is going to come up. But
From
aside from
hundreds of
that,
webinars, you got to make that simple. In this case, the life insurance is designed to deliver the long-term care benefits and be a hedge against never using any long-term care benefits, is how I try to just keep it like one and a half, 2 sentences to just characterize it properly. This is a long-term care forward solution. Life insurance just plays a certain part in this. Uh, it is not going to play the same role as your group term life. But yeah, I think when the first permanent term individual filed product hits the hybrid market, it'll be a surprise to just about everyone but us. And it will be pretty shocking. And I guess we can say who knows if it'll happen, but they have to be paying attention. It's just about who might take that leap to do it. But it will be an interesting shock to the system, I think.
yeah. I would say there are so many great ideas out there now that are proven to work. Perm term is one of them, proven to be a good structure. So you should just copy it if you're a carrier. But there are some other ones like building short-term care on a traditional long-term care policy, which is what Bankers did. And I do see some carriers starting to talk about replicating that successful concept, both with individual, but also with multi-life or with group products too. Wouldn't it be nice to have group short-term care? So I think you're going to see a renaissance of different types of products that are going to come out leveraging these concepts that have worked really well. And again, as long as you're not too, focused on the chassis, you're just thinking about what does this contract do for my client, that's going to be a great solution. So yeah, we're really excited about where the market's headed, and I think you're going to see those coming out really soon. It's not like you have to wait very long for them. They're already being developed.
Great. I think that's a really good place to stop here and get you all back to whatever else you were doing before this, unless there are any other questions. But we really appreciate you having us here. I hope you figured out what group long-term care is. I think we got it figured out now after this call. Um, and yeah, just let us know if you have any questions, anything you're working on, we can assist you with. We are always here for that. And be good, be well,
Before you
and
jump, Jason, I think you're actually unmuted.
oh,
Oh,
yes.
I totally agree with everything you said. I'm good.
All
I
right.
know the standard is true group and a
Good enough.
hybrid.
Bucket one.
Bucket one. Yep.
All righty. Well, everybody be good, be well, and we'll talk to you this time next week. Have a good one.
Thanks.